What is up? George the Fragrance Apprentice here, and Fragrant Jesus recently came down from the heavens and blessed us with his 5 fragrances that he loves that aren't really hypes. I thought that was just it's one of my favourite videos from Ashton actually in recent times. I think it's just a great concept for a fragrance video, and you know, it's good and it's hot and trendy to talk about all of the hot and trendy releases and all of the new compliment getters and all that kind of stuff. But of course, you know, as fragrance collectors, there are just some fragrances that we really love. They come out to literally no fanfare, but we have a soft spot for them. And so let's just get straight into it with number 1. Number 1 is Boss Bottled Absolute. I was intrigued by this release straight off the bat when I heard that Anique Minardo was coming back to perfume this. Anique Minardo is the original perfumier of Boss Bottled. She did that back in the 90s, mid-90s, and then she just didn't come back. She didn't do any of the Boss Bottled flankers, and so when somebody returns back to their original fragrance after a long period of absence to do a flanker, that's always intriguing. Sometimes it doesn't work out, like a lot of the Lamals with Francis Kurkdjian, but this really worked out. You see, I have a little bit of a theory about this. After Boss Bottled, you know, lots of different flankers, but for a period of time they wanted to make Boss Bottled darker and deeper, and they hit that out of the park when they did the Oud fragrance and the other 2 Oud flankers that came out, but that's not as commercially viable as just giving it a bit more wood or a bit more like incense or musk or something of that ilk. And I felt as though they never truly got there until they got Anique Minardo back, and they said, look, we've been trying to make your Boss Bottled darker and deeper for the longest time. Could you give a good crack of the whip at it? And I just like it to imagine in my mind that she just went, it's easy, you just do this, and she made that. This is finally a deeper, darker version of Boss Bottled. It's got a little bit more powder, it's got a little bit more wood, and just that sort of muskier, sweeter undertone has really been elevated. The original Hugo Boss Bottled is very fluffy and nice. It's like an apple pie. It's got apple, it's got cinnamon, got a little bit of sweetness, but it's very fluffy and, you know, light. But this has depth, this has a little bit of grit, and she just knew what she was doing. I think that she knew her own creation pretty much inside out, and she just did this, and I've really liked it. I've enjoyed wearing it casually on colder days. I can imagine this could do quite well in the springtime, but I think that one of the reasons why it didn't work out as well is because on the initial open, which is very good, but I think that most people are just going to think to themselves, oh, it's Boss Bottled, there's no difference. And in a way, that's sort of true, but there is a lot more depth, and the projection longevity is a lot stronger than the original Boss Bottled in its current formulation. So that's my number 1. Number 2, oh man. This is a fragrance I know that's going to get discontinued, and I'll tell you how I know it's going to get discontinued in no time. This is Gucci Guilty Absolute. What a great fragrance. It's the best thing that Gucci have done since like Gucci Pour Homme 2. People complain all the time about how generic and samey and similar and mediocre, you know, all of the Gucci fragrances that come out, and then they just released this and nobody talked about it and nobody cared. In fact, in a lot of stores apparently in the United States, you can't even really find this reliably. This is so underlooked in this community. It's so not talked about that when I went to the fragrance shop, and I was actually in Debenhams and I saw this, I bought it on the inclination that it was a brand new release, because I'd never seen it before, and I was like, this is going to be great, it's going to be fantastic for the compliment factor. I legitimately thought that it was something that was released like last week or something. This was a month ago, and I get home, type it into Fragrantica 2017, and I was like, what? Two years? What? Nearly 3 years ago this was released, but nobody talks about it. Now, I don't blame them. What does this smell of? Well, you know when you've got a bandage, like you've broken your arm or something, or you've had a cut or whatever, and then you put a bandage on your skin, and then it heals like 4 days later, and you take the bandage off and you like smell your arm. Do you smell your arm when you take a bandage off? I do. That's what the cool kids do. But anyway, that smell from your skin, mostly dead skin, after you've taken a bandage off, yeah, that's what this fragrance smells like. And I just thought, what on earth is that all about? And I love it. It's incredibly medicinal. It's a lot of sawdust. It's pretty caustic. It's not designery at all. It's very, very different and very intense, and I love it. Brilliant. I think that's just fantastic. And I thought, way to go, Gucci, of all houses, for doing something like that. I love it. It's great. It's a bit wild. It's a bit weird, and not what I would have expected for Gucci. And of course, when it was released, nobody cared. But I like it, and I've got it. And just a word of warning, I know this is going to get discontinued because nobody's buying it. Nobody cares. So if you want to get it now. And then when it's discontinued, everybody will hype it as though it was the greatest fragrance that you never were able to smell. Right, number 3. Oh, Jean Paul Gaultier. Remember all those flankers I was telling you about just then? Okay, I'll give you one exception. Fleur de Mal. Fleur de Mal's great. Absolutely great fragrance. But apart from that, most of the La Mal flankers, nobody cares. They're not all that interesting. They're not all that great. And, you know, Ultra Mal was released, everybody thought that it was great. I don't actually like Ultra Mal personally. This for me was the fragrance that made me go, brilliant. La Mal is back in town. Coconut, smells like a beach party, smells like a tropical beach party on, I don't know, in the Caribbean or somewhere like that. Really, really beautiful, luscious beaches with palm trees and all of that kind of stuff. Just, that is what this is. It's a partying fragrance. It's just fantastic. It's not very versatile because of that, and it does restrict itself because of that. But nobody was interested. I think I was one of the only people who did a video on it. Then 2 months later, I think like Max Forte was like, "Oh right, yeah, I'll do it," and then he did it. But apart from me and Max, mate, nobody really talked about this. Nobody was really bothered. But I love it. I think it's great. I think it really paints a fantastic picture of like a beautiful tropical beach in the Maldives, or, you know, Caribbean, wherever you want to call it. Brilliant. Number 4 is, again, just taken straight out of Ashton's book, but I totally agree with him. Jairam O. Brilliant fragrance. Really, really underrated fragrance. It's funny because you have Jairam, you have Jairam Intense, you have Jairam Spore. Iris-based fragrances, not very conventional, not the most people-pleasing fragrances. They're great, they're sexy, they're brilliant. I love them. You know how much I love them. I adore them. Isn't it funny that the most conventional one, the one that actually smells the most mainstream, Jairam O, is the one that's least popular? You'd think that they would have taken notice of that, but no, they haven't, and they've released Jairam 2020, which is the most conventional fragrance, the most bland, boring fragrance of all time. Congrats on that, Dior. Anyway, so Jairam O has this, obviously has the iris, and you can tell that it's a Dior Homme, but it has this kind of like blue, conventional, aquatic accord in there that's kind of like you've taken Bleu de Chanel Parfum and put it in here with like this citrusy, bitter accord. It's interesting. It's really, really, really interesting. And when I first smelt it, I didn't really like it, didn't really get it. Now I do. I think it's great. And for transitional periods, when it's going from colder weather to spring, and when it's going from summer to autumn, I rock the absolute hell out of this. It's great. It's brilliant. And again, this is being changed also, or being discontinued. I don't know what they're doing with the Jairam line at the moment. And my number 5 is a fragrance I've always loved. I've always had a soft spot for. And it's time. I suppose it's time for me to sort of reveal it, and that's Tommy Hilfiger's Brights. Probably the best flanker out of the Tommy Hilfiger line. Of course, I do love Tommy cologne, but this has got like a really interesting kind of similar deal to Le Beau. It's like grass, greeny grass with a bit of coconut. That's great. With the original Tommy Cologne, you know, sweet high school Tommy Cologne DNA. And I think that's just brilliant. Just totally get it. Totally love it. And it's very refreshing, and it's not as limiting as Le Beau, which is just full on coconut. This is coconut, but it's also got that really pastoral, green, grassy note. Very nice, very pleasant, very refreshing for you. Very, very refreshing and very easy to wear. And I just think that it's great, and have always enjoyed it. So those are my 5 unhyped fragrances that nobody really talks about, that I truly love, if you've ever wanted to know. Thank you for watching. I'm uploading pretty much every single day at the moment on this YouTube channel, so for all things fragrance related, please subscribe, like and comment. Thank you so much. I'm the Fragrance Press. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.